Hi everyone, I'm Nithin, and today in PSLE Science, I'll be going through the topic of cell systems. And cell systems is actually a topic from P5. Okay, so let's go ahead and master this topic, cell systems. Okay, so for the first segment of this video, what is a cell? Okay, so basically, what is a cell? A cell is basically the smallest or the basic unit of life. Okay, they can only be seen with a microscope. Okay, what is a microscope? This is a microscope over here. We need to use a microscope in order to see the cell. Because the cell is so tiny, okay, we cannot see it with our naked eye. That means that when we put the cell in front of us, right, we actually cannot see it. That's how small it is. And we must use this microscope in order to look at cells. And all organisms are made up of cells. Okay, if you do not know what organisms are actually living things. Okay, let me write that down over here. Living things. Okay, and they are all made up of cells. You know that me and you are living things, right? So we are actually made up of cells as well. And there are two different types of organisms. First is unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms, okay, and the next one is multicellular organisms. Okay, multicellular organisms. So unicellular organisms, can you see this word over here which represents something? Look at it. Can you see this part? Uni, right? What does uni mean? Uni means one. So unicellular organisms are actually made up of one cell, only one cell. Okay, examples are like bacteria and yeast. Okay, so this is a bacterial cell. Okay, over here, this is a bacterial cell. Next, for multicellular organisms, can you see the same type of word over here? Multi over here. Can you see it? Multi actually means many, right? Many. So multicellular organisms actually have many cells, right? So made of two or more cells, basically many. Okay, let me write it down over here. Many. Okay, so examples are like animals and plants. So animals, do you know that humans are actually a form of animals? Because humans are actually falling under the category of mammals. And you have learned this in P3, right? That mammals are also animals, because in animals there are actually 6 categories and one of them are mammals, right? So in mammals, right? So we are also an animal. We are considered, okay? So this is an animal cell and this is a plant cell. Okay, now I hope you understand the difference between unicellular organism and multicellular organisms and have learned what is a cell. Okay, now let's move on to the next segment of this video. Okay, this is segment 2 and this is multicellular organisms. Okay, so I'll be going through how does a cell actually turn into a human. Okay, multicellular organisms. How does this small tiny cell turn into this very big human, right? This microscopic cell turns into a very large human, right? So how does this actually happen? So you have to know this process. So first, from cells, so a cell is a basic unit of life, right? And each cell is specialized to serve each specific function, okay? And then from cells, we need to move on to tissues. And many of the same types of cell, right? The cells that perform the similar functions, they actually join forces and form tissues, okay? So this is a muscle tissue. And moving on, from tissues, we need to go into organs. And actually, many of these tissues, like 2 or more types of tissues, actually work together in order to form these organs. And you can see that this is the stomach, right? And from organs, we move on to systems. Okay. So same thing. 2 or more types of organs actually work together in order to form systems. And now that we have systems, right, many of these systems actually join together and form the human. Yay, this is a human. Okay, so many systems join together and form the human. Okay, so actually, and you know that this is a digestive system, right? And in order for the digestive system to work, right, you need to have the stomach, you need to have the small intestine, you need to have the large intestine, you need to have the anus, you need to have the mouth, the gullet, right? So actually all of these organs need to work together in order to form this system. So this is how we can see the connection between cells, tissues, organs and systems, right? And this systems from humans and animals. Okay, so now that you have understood multicellular organisms, let's move on to the next segment. Okay, segment 3, typical cells. So I'll be going through typical cells, and those the typical cells, right, they have cell parts, and I'll be going through their functions as well. Okay, so in typical cells, there are actually two types of cells. First is the cheek cell from the animal, okay, and then the leaf cell from the plant. Okay, leaf cell actually comes from the leaf, and the cheek cell actually comes from the cheek of us, okay, the cheek. Okay, how does a cheek cell look like? It actually looks like this. Let me label the parts and go through their functions. Okay, so this is a cell membrane. Okay, this is called the cell membrane. And sometimes in exams, they actually ask you to label things. And this tinted blue color area is actually called the cytoplasm. Okay, and this round disc-like thing is actually called the nucleus. Okay, nucleus. Okay, now we have seen the three parts in this animal cell, the cheek cell. Let me go through the functions of the nucleus, cytoplasm, and the cell membrane. Okay, actually I have also prepared a table with all the functions and all the cell parts from the cheek cell to the leaf cell. Okay, and I'll be going through this in the next slide. So first the leaf cell. First the nucleus. Let me go through the function of the nucleus. The nucleus is actually like the brain of the cell. Okay, the nucleus is the brain of the cell, right? And what does it actually do? It actually controls all the activities that happen in this cell. Okay, and the nucleus actually contains genetic information that is passed down from one generation to the next. And this and you know that each cell performs a different type of function, right? And this genetic information actually helps the nucleus to control all the activities in order to perform that specific function that the cell is supposed to perform. Okay, next we know the two main functions of the nucleus. Now let's move on to the cytoplasm. Okay, since the nucleus controls all the activities in the cell, right, and there's got to be a place where all these activities take place. That place is actually the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm is where all the cell activities take place. Okay, and another function of the cytoplasm is actually that the cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance. Okay, you can call it the jelly pool or something. Okay, it's a jelly-like substance. Okay, it's a jelly-like substance whereby all the cell parts, okay, the nucleus and the other cell parts that are not in the syllabus, move around freely in this area, okay, in this cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm actually allows them to move around freely. Next, the cell membrane. The cell membrane is actually a thin membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm, right? You can see it for yourself. And the main function of the cell membrane, okay, let me give you a hint. You can call the cell membrane a security guard. Okay, you can remember it as a security guard of the cell. Okay, what it does is basically what a security guard does. Okay, so it allows substances in and out of the cell. Okay, so that is the function of the cell membrane. If there's a bad substance want to come into the cell, it doesn't allow it. but if there's a good substance that the cell needs, it will allow it to go inside. So this is basically a function of the cell membrane. Okay, so it allows substances in and out of the cell. Now let's move on to the leaf cell, okay, from the plant. So this is how a leaf cell looks like. Okay, so first, the leaf cell. The leaf cell actually has two extra parts, and one of the parts can be very confusing. Let me go through the confusing part first. So in the leaf cell, right, you can see that there's actually two layers, right, and you do not know which is the cell membrane, right? So let me erase it and draw the new part in blue color. So this is actually called the cell wall, and the cell membrane in green color. Okay, so the outer layer is the cell wall. Okay, so let me label it cell wall, and the inner layer is actually the cell membrane. Okay, so I hope you understand. The cell wall is the outer layer of the plant cell, and the cell membrane is the inner layer of the plant cell. Okay, next, the other new plant is actually the chloroplast. Okay, this is the chloroplast. So the round green disc-like thing is actually the chloroplast. Okay, next, let me label the parts that we have already learned. So cytoplasm over here. Okay, and then the nucleus. Okay, so that's it. Let me go through the functions of the cell wall and the chloroplast now, because we have already went through the functions of the nucleus and the cytoplasm and the cell membrane. Okay, so let me go through the function of the cell wall first. Okay, what is a cell wall? A cell wall is basically a structure that actually gives the cell a regular shape, right? It actually gives this plant cell a regular shape. See, it's a regular shape, but this chick cell is an irregular shape. We cannot tell if it's a circle, oval, or anything, but we can tell that this is a rectangular, almost rectangle, right? You can see it, right? It's almost like a rectangle. So this is actually a regular shape, or this is an irregular shape. So it actually supports the cell and gives it a regular shape. Next, it actually prevents the cell from bursting. Okay, I think you do not understand why. It prevents the cell from bursting when it's placed in a solution. It actually depends on the question, whether it's water or any other type of solution. So let me write solution. And then let me draw the chick cell over here. So solution. So this side is the chick cell. This side is the leaf cell. Okay, so in the solution, if we place the chick cell, right, it only has a cell membrane to support it. So when, let's take that the solution is water. Okay, water. So when water enters the cell, right, it actually bursts the cell. So the cell will actually burst. When too much water is inside, it will actually burst. So the chick cell, the outcome is burst, because when we place it in water, it actually burst. Next, the leaf cell. The leaf cell, when it rains, right, it actually lands on the leaf as well, right? So it must be protected from the rain. How does it not burst? Okay, the leaf cell, it actually doesn't burst because of the cell wall. It actually supports the cell, right? It supports the cell. But the leaf cell, there's a thing over here. It actually swells. The cell actually swells, but it does not burst. But let me put cross burst. That means no burst. Okay, that means it does not burst, right? So this is the difference between the chick cell and the leaf cell. If you place it in the water, it bursts, and the leaf cell, if you place it in water, it will not burst, but it will swell up. Okay, so you got to know the difference. So this is basically the main functions of the cell wall. Now let's move on to the chloroplast. Okay, the chloroplast is actually contains these green pigments called chlorophyll, and they are green in color because they are green pigments, obviously. So, and these green pigments called chlorophyll, actually their function is to trap sunlight, okay, and make food by photosynthesizing. Okay, so the chloroplast inside got chlorophyll, right? So the chlorophyll actually traps sunlight and photosynthesizes to make food and release oxygen. Okay, so this is basically the function of the chloroplast. So now that I've went through all of the functions and the parts of the cell, let me go through the table over here for a clearer view for you. So this is basically another one. This is basically the chick cell and the plant cell with label, if you just want for a reference. Okay, so this is the table. So first let me go through the nucleus. The nucleus is actually present in both the animal cell and the plant cell, or the leaf and chick cell. Okay, and we can call the nucleus as the brain of the cell, right? The brain. Okay, the first function is that it controls all the activities in the cell. The second function is that it contains genetic information, which is DNA, which is passed on from one generation to the next. Okay, the cell membrane, I told you, it's like the security guard, right? So the first function, this is a thin membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm. Okay, it controls the movement of substances in and out of the cell. That's why it's called the security guard, right? Now, for the cytoplasm, we can call it as the jelly pool. Okay, these terms are only for you to memorize. Okay, in the exam you cannot write jelly pool and brain of the cell. You cannot write the security guard. Okay, you cannot write all of this. This is only for you to help you to remember these parts and the functions. Okay, and the cytoplasm is basically the place where all the cell activities take place. And the second function is that it's a jelly-like substance that allows all the substances in the cell and all the cell parts in the cell to move freely within the cell, obviously. Okay, next, the cell wall. This is from the plant. Okay, so these three parts are actually present in both plant and animal cells, but the cell wall and the chloroplast is not in it. The cell wall and the chloroplast is only for plant cells or the leaf cell. Okay, so cell wall, what do we call the cell wall? We call it the wall, right? Wall of the cell. Okay, it actually supports and gives the cell a regular shape. Okay, and the second function is that it prevents the cell from bursting when it's placed in a solution. It actually depends on the question because we do not know what is the solution. It could be water or any other thing. Okay, and the chloroplast. The chloroplast, you can make up something, but I do not actually have anything to remember the chloroplast. I just remember it as the food maker or something. Okay, let me just write food. Okay, as you can make up your own thing. Okay, so these are actually things that I made up on my own to help me remember the cell parts. So the only function that this chloroplast has is that it contains a green pigment called chlorophyll to capture sunlight for photosynthesis in order to make food for the plant. Okay, so I hope you understand the cell parts and the functions and the cell itself as well. Okay, now I hope you understand, and if you have understood, let's move on to the next segment of this video. Segment 4. This is the 3 main cell processes. Okay, so the 3 cell processes. The first one, cell division. Okay, is where one parent cell splits into 2 daughter cells. So this is the parent cell, and these are the daughter cells. Okay, so the next one is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is whereby the plant takes in water and carbon dioxide and uses chlorophyll in the leaves in the presence of sunlight in order to capture the sunlight and for photosynthesis to make food for the plant, okay, and release oxygen as well, okay. So O2 means oxygen and CO2 means carbon dioxide. Next process, respiration. Respiration is the process whereby the animal or the plant uses digested food, but the plant actually cannot have digested food because the plant has nothing to digest it. It does not have a digestive system in order to digest the food. So we need to provide food for the plant. Okay, respiration is whereby the animals use digested food and oxygen and they respire and release energy and carbon dioxide. Okay? And then for plants is basically whereby the plants use food and oxygen, respire to release energy and oxygen. Okay? So I hope you understand that. Oh, sorry, not oxygen, is carbon dioxide. Okay, so I hope you understand that. Okay, first for cell division. Okay, so this is basically cell division. I have two pictures over here. Okay, the process is basically whereby one parent cell splits into two daughter cells. Okay, and some of you might ask, why is cell division important? Because you do not understand the purpose of cell division, right? So why is cell division important? Okay, number one, cell division is really important for replacing dead and damaged parts of the organism. Okay, this is like when we are hurt, right? And my hand is like bleeding, right? It's actually the damaged and dead cells already. That is why the cells, the good cells, actually divide itself by doing the cell division, right, into two daughter cells. So you keep on dividing like this, and so it will keep on dividing. So from here it will divide again, just like this. Okay, keep on dividing, and then you can like see it keeps on dividing, and then there's so many cells, right? So these cells actually come to the rescue and replace the dead and damaged cells, so that just like when you get hurt, right, you actually know that after few days or few weeks it actually recovers and it becomes better again, right? So this is because of cell division and the cells. Okay, the second function of cell division, why is cell division important, right? So it's for the growth of the organism. Okay, so basically we have to know that when we are growing, right, our cells do not increase in size, but it actually increases in the number. See this cell, it does not increase in size as it goes, it actually increases in number. See, just like this over here. So just like this, when an organism grows, its cells do not increase in size but increase in number. So you got to note this. Okay, take note. Now let's move on to photosynthesis. Okay, photosynthesis. So this is like photosynthesis. Now, the process is, photosynthesis is the process whereby the plant takes in water and carbon dioxide from the surroundings and uses chlorophyll in the leaves in the presence of sunlight to trap sunlight to make food and release oxygen. Okay, just like I went through. So in order for photosynthesis to take place, the plant needs water, carbon dioxide, and needs to use chlorophyll. Okay, it needs to use chlorophyll, and very important, it needs to be able to be in the presence of sunlight, so that, but if it's in night, right, the plant actually can't photosynthesize because there's no sunlight or just light. And some of you might be asking, why is this sun bracketed? This is because not all the time that the plant needs the sun. You can actually have a normal lamp as well. Okay, my drawing of a lamp. So this gives out light. Okay, so the plant can actually be underneath this. Okay, just like that. Okay, so it actually does not need to be like so fancy. It does not actually have to be the sun that is giving out the light. You can actually use a normal light source like this, but there's special types of light that plants need. Okay, so this is to trap sunlight to make food and release oxygen. Okay, so this is basically the function, right? This is the function, is to trap sunlight and make food to release oxygen. Okay, so I hope you understand the process. Now let's move on to the next important process, which is respiration. So respiration is whereby the animal or plant takes in digested food. Okay, the plant does not use digested food, it uses just normal food, because the plant does not have a digestive system, like I said, in order to digest its food. So that is why digested is in bracketed. So this raccoon over here uses its digested food and oxygen, and it respires in order to release energy and carbon dioxide. Okay, so the process is basically, respiration is the process whereby the cell in the organism use oxygen and digested food, still bracketed because of the plants, to release energy and carbon dioxide. Okay, if you realize something, right, respiration and photosynthesis is actually linked a little bit. So we humans breathe out carbon dioxide, right? And the plants take in carbon dioxide in the morning because that's when there's light in the daytime. Okay, but some of the students actually get confused because of the respiration. They are like, do only humans respire because the plants photosynthesize, right? Actually, plants also respire. They respire all the time. It's just that in the daytime is actually very minimal. But at night, the plants do not actually photosynthesize. They respire because at night the plant takes in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Okay? And in the morning, the plant takes in carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen for photosynthesis. And if you see that we give out carbon dioxide, right, and the plant will use our carbon dioxide and give out oxygen for us. So if there are actually no plants in this world, right, there will be no humans or animals. Okay, so I hope you understand the link. Now let's move on to our next segment, which is basically the process to describe. We need to use the process to describe, right? We need to know the processes to describe. So in the question, if they ask the keyword in the question, right, that we need to highlight, and the process that we need to use. So in the question, if they say growth or reproduction, right, then we must use cell division. And in the question, if they have a keyword like obtain food, we have to use photosynthesis. Okay, and in the question, if they use energy, then we know it is respiration, right? So this is basically how we need to know the processes to describe when we get the keywords in the question. So you got to take note of all of these keywords. Okay, now we can move on to the next segment. So the next segment is basically specialized cell. Just like typical cells, there's actually specialized cells. So there are actually 3 types of specialized cell. Let me go through them right now. So in specialized cells, there's actually a sperm cell from the animal. So this is actually the male reproductive cell, okay? Male reproductive cell. Next is actually from a plant. It's a root hair cell. Okay, I think you understand where does it come from. It actually comes from the root. Okay, and it actually has this elongated protrusion. Okay, this long part over here is called the elongated protrusion. Okay, this highlighted portion over here is actually called the elongated protrusion. In the root cell, actually there's something amazing in it. It actually does not have chloroplast. Okay, and later I'll go through the explanation. Okay, why does it not have chloroplast? Okay, we know that root hair cells are found underground, right? So the root hair cell is found underground. So actually underground there's no sunlight. So that is why it does not have chloroplast. Because the root hair cell is not exposed to sunlight, so it cannot trap sunlight and photosynthesize, of course. Okay, and the sperm cell is a reproductive cell. Okay, and let me just label the parts also. So this is a nucleus. Okay, this is the cytoplasm, and the outer layer is, and this cell actually has the tail over here. Okay, the tail, but it's actually, the scientific term is actually known as the flagellum. Okay, and it also has the cell membrane. Okay, so the root hair cell, same thing. The root hair cell only does not have chloroplast, but it still has cell wall. Cell wall, and then the inner layer is a cell membrane. This is the nucleus, and this is the cytoplasm. The next one is the red blood cell. The red blood cell is from the animal as well. You know our blood, right? So this is the top view, and this is the side view. And I'm doing this is to show you that the center is actually dented. Dented center. Okay? And the red blood cell is also special because it does not have a nucleus. And this is so that it has more space in order to carry the oxygen and carbon dioxide into our body and out of our body. Okay, so that it has more space, and this dented center is also so that it has more space. Okay, so now let's move on to our sperm cell. Sperm cell. Okay, so the sperm cell, let me go through the definition. Okay, the sperm cell, actually we need to know how is this cell actually specialized. Okay, the male reproductive cell, the sperm, fuses with the female reproductive cell, the egg, in the process of fertilization. So this cell is special because this is a reproductive cell, and it actually needs to fuse with the female reproductive cell, known as the egg cell, in the process of fertilization. So this is how babies are made. Okay, they need to fuse, and the fertilized egg will be in the womb for about 9 months, the gestation period. Okay, they actually fertilize in the fallopian tube. Okay, and they have to grow into a baby. Okay, so that is what happens. Next, the sperms are released at the vagina. Okay, the sperms are released at the vagina in order for the sperms to swim using their tail or their flagellum in order to reach the fallopian tube in order to fertilize with the egg cell, and the ovary produces the egg cell. Okay, the tail, the flagellum, helps the sperm to swim to the fallopian tube to fuse with the egg in the process of fertilization, just like I said just now. Okay, so I hope you understand this. Now let's move on to the next one, root hair cell. So this is the root hair cell. Okay, so this is from the plant, right? So let's go through the definition. How is this cell specialized? We have to ask this question for all of them. The root hair cell does not contain chloroplast, right? While the leaf cell does. So it's different. Why does it not contain chloroplast? That is because the root hair cell is found underground, and it is not exposed to the sunlight or just light. Thus, the root hair cell will not need to carry out photosynthesis and will not need chloroplast as well, which contains chlorophyll to trap sunlight for photosynthesis to make food for the plant. Okay, so this is the reason why. Okay, And the root hair cell has an elongated protrusion. This is how it is specialized. This part over here. I hope you remember where is it. See this extended portion over here. This is actually called the elongated protrusion. Okay, this is the elongated protrusion. And this is actually not in the syllabus, but you can this word is not tested in the syllabus, but they will still test you on the function of this part. Okay, you can just remember it as the elongated protrusion, and if you want to write it in your answer, you can write it as well. The elongated protrusion actually increases the surface area of the roots in contact with the soil for faster absorption of water and mineral salts. Okay, some of the root cell, right, actually do not have this elongated protrusion. Okay, if I just draw a rectangle over here. Okay, let me just draw a rectangle over here. And let me say that this rectangle is the root cell. Okay? And it does not have chloroplast. So this is just the nucleus. Okay, and then there's a vacuole. Okay, this could also be the root hair cell. Okay, and most of the root hair cell have this elongated protrusion. Okay, so if there is no elongated protrusion, right, there's actually only these four sides in order for it to have in contact with the water and mineral salts for faster absorption, right? So but when there's actually this elongated protrusion, right, let me highlight the area of view that is actually going to be in contact. See, this whole area is going to be in contact, right? So it actually has a larger area. And let me say that this is the normal leaf cell. Okay. Or the root cell as well. Okay. So just like that. I hope you understand this. So let me just read it to you again. The elongated protrusion increases the surface area of the roots in contact with the soil for faster absorption of water and mineral salts. Because the function of the roots is to absorb water and mineral salts for the plant, of course, right? So this is basically the function of the elongated protrusion. So I hope you understand how is this root hair cell actually specialized. Now let's move on to the red blood cell. Okay, the red blood cell. So the red blood cell is actually an animal cell, right? And this is top view and this is the side view. So how is this cell specialized? We do not know this, right? The red blood cell does not contain a nucleus, right? We know this. The red blood cell does not contain a nucleus. So why is that so? So the advantage is so that the red blood cell can carry more oxygen, which is then transported through the blood vessels to all parts of the body at a faster rate. It's because that it can travel to our body at a faster rate. If there was a nucleus, right, it will be very slow. Okay, it will be much slower. And the disadvantage is that the red blood cell cannot reproduce, like carrying out cell division, because of having no nucleus. Because we know that nucleus is the main reason for cell division, right? The nucleus controls all the activities in the cell, so it also controls cell division. Instead, they are produced by the bone marrow. So red blood cells are actually produced by the bone marrow, and they don't reproduce by themselves. Okay. Next, the dentate center actually gives the red blood cell a larger exposed surface area for faster absorption of oxygen. Okay, so that it can also transport it faster to us for our body, all our parts. Okay, so this is the red blood cell. How is it specialized? Okay, now let's move on. So this is the last segment of this video, the comparison between the 5 types of cells. Okay, so this is the 5 types of cells that we have learned. First, the plant cell, the chick cell, next the leaf cell, next the sperm cell, next the root hair cell, and after that is the red blood cell. Okay, the 5 types of cells. So the comparison between the 5 types of cell is basically here. Okay, so first the cell types: chick cell, plant cell, the leaf cell, then the sperm cell, the root hair cell, and then the red blood cell. So the nucleus. So for the cheek cell, there's a nucleus, there's a cell membrane, there's a cytoplasm. The leaf cell, it has all the parts, right? The nucleus, cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the chloroplast, and the cell wall. The sperm cell, it has a nucleus, it has a cell membrane, it has a cytoplasm, and there's actually an extra part it has, which is the tail, right? It has a tail, or the flagellum. So this is also a tail. Okay. Next, over here, the root cell actually has the nucleus, cell membrane, cytoplasm, and it does not have chloroplast because it is found underground, and it has a cell wall. Okay. So that is why it's still a plant cell, and it's also from the plants. The red blood cell, it does not have a nucleus. It has a cell membrane, it has a cytoplasm, and it does not have chloroplast or a cell wall because it's an animal cell. So let me write animal cell for A means animal cell, okay, and P means plant cell. Okay, so there are actually 3 animal cells and 2 plant cells, and these are the comparison between all of the cells. Okay, and this sperm actually has an extra part, which is the tail or the flagellum. Okay, so I hope you understand my explanation for the cells in this video, and thank you and bye bye. I'll see you in my next video, and I hope you understand all of them truly. Thank you and bye bye. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.